All right, we're now shifting focus to a very different story. So we're going to shift tracks. We'll have reporters join us in just a second, but we're learning that the Chief Justice of India is commenting on the abortion case. We'll bring you the context of the comments in just a second. He said a medical termination of pregnancy can't be allowed. Remember, the Supreme Court is, as we speak, pronouncing their order in this case. I'll wait for our legal correspondent Ananya Bhatnagar to join us and bring us more context on this. Ananya, we know that the Supreme Court has been looking at a married woman's plea for a few days now. Can you tell us more context about what it is that this Chief Justice of India has just said?
Well, the Supreme Court has very clearly refused to abort this particular fetus that had crossed 24 weeks. Remember that this is a 27-year-old girl who had knocked the doors of the Supreme Court saying that, she cannot give a birth. She was suffering from postpartum psychosis, and that's the reason why she was not also having the particular money to bear the child, is what has been stated before the topmost court of the country. Supreme Court was hearing this matter for a long time, and finally the Supreme Court has come to a conclusion that, this is a fetus, this is almost a born child. The pregnancy is almost complete, and that's the reason why, in fact, the topmost court of the country has clearly refused to, go beyond and, to allow an abortion. It is very categorical said that the same cannot be done because, A, it is in the violation of the adoption, the abortion law. And, in fact, what is also very clear at this point of time is that the direction has been given to the state to bear all the medical costs that have been caused in this particular case. And also, if at all the parents feel that they cannot take care of the child can be put up for adoption, and the adoption board would actually help the mother and the father to actually give the child for adoption if at all they are not able to take care of him. But very significant verdict coming in from the top court, clearly refusing to get this abortion done, clearly saying that this is in violation of Section 3 and 5 of the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act, and since there is no threat to the mother or the child, the abortion is not at all necessary at this point of time. So yeah.
Let me just, Ananya, tell our audiences where the law stands right now. Then we'll go over to an activist. Brinda Adige is with us right now, so we'll go over to her for her opinion on the story. Ananya, stay with us though. We'd like to come back to you. As the law stands right now, all women in the country, regardless of marital status, can end their pregnancy up to 24 weeks. It was in September 2022 that the Supreme Court extended the right to safe and legal abortion to that date, 24 weeks of pregnancy to unmarried and single women. Now, Brinda Adige, an activist, is with us. Ms. Adige, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Ms. Adige, this is a complicated case because the young mother in this entire case has said that she suffers from depression, that obviously is something that she suffers from once the child is born, postpartum depression essentially. She's also made a number of other reasons as to why she doesn't want to go ahead with this pregnancy. However, the court has said this isn't an immediate danger to her health. How do you see this?
I think this is not correct, especially when we are looking at what this woman has gone through and is going through just now. We know that the Supreme Court was not willing to, even though one of the judges said that it should go ahead because she has asked and whatever the lady has said. But now they are divided in their opinion. They don't want to give this because there are organizations and groups who are pro-life who may be saying do not allow something like this. At the end of the day, we need to ask ourselves, it is this woman's choice, her bodily autonomy, and what she is going to go through and going through after the delivery. People can say you can put the child up for adoption, somebody else will look after you, you'll have a 24-hour nursemaid. All of those things can be said. But what actually is happening is only an experience that mother, that woman is going to be experiencing. And the court taking such a stance that they will not give her the right to go and do the abortion is unacceptable. Because we need to understand that it is not such an easy thing to say that this abortion will not be, the right for you to have the abortion is not being given because it is the right of the child to live. But before that, it is the right of the woman to live. And in any given case, it is the right of that woman who is now living that is what must be upheld. So the Supreme Court sitting on a high horse and standing in a patriarchal stance of saying this is not something that we will allow does not bode well for women.
Can I
She could have
ask-
got this done somewhere else, but she's come asking for permission from the court so that she can get this abortion done in a legal manner. So why is the state not supporting her?
Brinda, can I just ask you to stay with us? I want to come back to you for your opinion again. We have Dr. Sanjeev Begai, a leading pediatrician who's with us right now on the phone. He's going to bring us his opinion on this story. Mr. Begai, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here on CNN News 18. Mr. Begai, I just want to take to you the primary concern that Brinda Adige raised right now. Part of the point that she made was when we say that the young woman was in fit health to give birth, we aren't taking into account this young woman's account of her own mental health. This young woman has said that her mental health could potentially suffer. And isn't this disrespectful to that? What do you have to say to that, Mr. Begai?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. So there are three important issues. And before I highlight this, I must add that no case can be generalized. Each case has to be taken on an individual basis. The three aspects really you need to take of concern is what is the medical condition and the comorbidities of the lady. Is it a very young pregnancy, unwanted pregnancy? Is it a post-rape? Is it something in which is affecting her mental health or psychological health? Point number two is there any major structural abnormalities of the fetus which is going to make the child once born unviable or not give any quality of life and have more surgeries than not? And number three, and extremely important, is this within the time limit which has been legalized? I think we need a more sympathetic, more flexible, more individualized approach. If we have a one rule which fits all, it may be doing injustice to the individual cases which need separate and special attention.
Doctor, can I just ask you, we do have more panelists joining us right now, but I just want to come back to you with a question. Right now, you said that one of the three conditions that really need to be paid attention to in these cases was the health of a woman. In this particular case, the woman that we're discussing, she's someone who said that she was already taking medication for her mental health, and that's something she wanted to be considered in this entire question. How do you think it should feature, sir?
Yeah, I think the mental health of a lady is extremely important. It is her body, it is her womb. Ultimately, the choice and the decision has to be of the parents. That is, the mother is the lead core part of this decision making. Sometimes even normal pregnancies and cesareans have postpartum depression and a lot of psychological changes. But if a lady who's already undergoing these kind of medical conditions is indeed on medication, and sometimes medication during pregnancy impacts the fetus itself. We know that there are syndromic changes which take place because of certain medication. So I think we need a larger view. We need a more tolerant view, and I don't think we should straight-jacket it. I think individual cases will require certain exemptions on a case-to-case basis.
All right, Dr. Begai, thank you so much for joining us and bringing us your context here. Let's go over now to Dr. Jayashree Sundar from Rainbow Hospital. She's also with us right now. Dr. Sundar, thank you for joining us. Dr. Sundar, we were talking right now about what the Supreme Court has had to say. The Supreme Court, let me just tell our audiences, because we're getting an additional piece of information here. The Supreme Court has said that the state is directed to bear all medical costs for the abortion process. They've also said that it will be up to the mother to give up the child for adoption or not. Doctor, if I could now return to you, Dr. Sundar, to get your opinion. In this particular case, the woman was already the mother of two children. One of which is a 1-year-old infant, and the point she'd made was that I'm in no condition to give birth to a third child, and that I'm taking medication because I have a mental condition. I don't want to therefore support a third child in this condition. Doctor, how do you see what it is that the Supreme Court has said, particularly because the Supreme Court, as recently as just 3 days ago, said that India's abortion law is liberal, it is pro-choice, and it is far ahead of other countries?
I don't exactly know what the Supreme Court has said the latest. I think we are much progressive and liberal for abortion laws in most countries. Many countries are going regressive. If you look at many of the US states, they are very regressive in their laws have become very regressive, and you cannot have termination. There are many other countries which don't allow termination for women at all. But yes, I do agree, the woman, as Dr. Begai said, the woman has a choice to decide whether she wants to be pregnant or she doesn't want the baby. We always tell a woman when they come to us that child is the whole and sole property of the mother, not the parents. The mother can decide whether she wants to birth or not birth. But obviously, we have to take many things into consideration, because after 24 weeks, the baby is viable, right? It's a live pregnancy. The baby can survive in the external world. So we have to be very judicious in our approach, that if there is nothing that is affecting the physical condition of a child, why we are terminating this pregnancy. And if we are going to terminate, should we allow the child to be born live? Then there should be a law which should say that we terminate the pregnancy inside the womb and terminate, rather than allowing a live birth to happen. So there are a lot of things to be taken into consideration. We are growing in a much better way. I mean, Delhi at least has its own law board, wherein if you refer the patients to Maulana Azad Medical College, they give us a decision earlier than later, which was a big challenge before. But all said and done, we should also, nobody speaks about the rights of the unborn child, So we need to consider that also when we take it into question, whether the unborn child has any legal rights or not. But all said and done, the mother has a say for this. But when we terminate as doctors, it is very difficult for us after 24 weeks, because that is what is accepted by the court of law, for us to terminate till 24 weeks. If we are going to terminate above that, we need the medical board to tell us, okay, this woman can go through the termination. And obviously, the doctor can also choose whether they want to undertake such terminations. There are many doctors who don't want to terminate even after 20 weeks, because for personal reasons, right? But at the end of the day, the woman has to be kept in the most important frame. She should be the center of the frame when the decision is taken, and it has to be a decision with her, not with anybody else.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. So the final words that you have over there, the woman needs to be the central framework around which this decision is made. Let's go back to the activist Brinda Adige, who's with us right now. We also have legal correspondent Ananya Bhatnagar with us, and I'll actually go to him first to get some context here. Ananya, if you could just tell our audiences a little bit more about this case itself, because we know that the young woman in question had made it clear to the court that she has a mental condition, that she is taking medication for it. What were the CJI's comments on that particular facet of this case?
Well, definitely, it was in fact the report of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences as well, that the woman is suffering from a particular mental, disorder. And in fact, not only that, she's all the medication that has been given to her, it's very, very clearly stated by the All India Institute of Medical Sciences that is not affecting the child at all. Secondly, when the girl had approached the Supreme Court, there were constant examinations that were being done by the top hospital of the country, by a board of AIMS, which is said to be the best board when it comes to judging the life of the fetus and to see the complication in a pregnancy. And in fact, in every case where we see abortion taking place, where we see a ground of abortion being sought, there we see that the Supreme Court generally asks the board of AIMS to actually examine it, and the same was done here. And finally, when the AIMS's final report is now today come in, wherein it had a sort of direction to stop the heart of that particular fetus, that 26 plus weeks fetus, the Supreme Court said no, such a thing cannot be allowed. And not only just because the girl is fine, it is also because the girl is not willing to do so, is what the Supreme Court noted. And in fact, it also said that the direction under Section 140 and Article 140 of the Constitution, using the extraordinary power the Supreme Court can actually allow to do so, but that that power has to be used very, very cautiously. And in this case particularly, the Supreme Court felt that this child should be let to be born. There should not be abortion that should take place at this point of time, because even the mother is agreeing that the child should be born, and it is the Supreme Court has asked for all the medical expenses to be borne by the state.
What do you mean, Ananya, just clarify for our audiences, what do you mean when you say even the mother wanted the child to be born? Could you just tell us more?
Well, the Supreme Court, while it had, and I'll quote it for you from this particular order that has been passed by the Supreme Court, that it is basically said that the court notes that the petitioner also didn't wish to stop the heart of the fetus, is what the court has recorded in its order. So very, very categorically, even the mother was not willing to, kill that particular child finally.
Okay, Ananya,
And,
we'll come
in
back to you
fact,
for clarification on that point in just a second. Once again, right now we have activist and lawyer Abha Singh who joins us this afternoon on the show. Abha, if you could just bring our audiences some context here. We know that the law in India is up to 24 weeks. We've spoken to doctors who've so far told us on the show that yes, though the law does stand at up to 24 weeks, a woman needs to be at the center of the framework when such a decision is made. How do you see what it is that the Supreme Court has said, where they've said that this woman is not going to be allowed to go through with the abortion, even though this woman has come forward and said that she does have a mental condition, she doesn't want this child to get affected, and this is possibly going to be her third child?
See, the issue here is that the abortion laws in India are very clear that up to 20 weeks, it will be the report of one registered medical practitioner who would give his opinion, or up to 24 weeks with the opinion of two doctors who are registered medical practitioners, abortion may be allowed. But here in this case, specifically, the AIMS has clearly said that the child may be born alive and there's a heartbeat. So right to life, that is what the Supreme Court had been thinking of. This is a news, which you rightly pointed out, a new issue that the mother has agreed today, because till yesterday the mother was not agreeing because she cited her depression, saying that she does not want to have the third child. But the issue here is that this is not the first time. Recently, in June 2023, Bombay High Court it refused a 15-year-old young girl, I would say, who was a rape victim, and they said no because the pregnancy was 28 weeks. The Bombay High Court double bench said that the child, 15-year-old girl, will have to go ahead with the pregnancy, did not give permission to abort a 28-week pregnancy because it said that the child's heartbeat had developed and the child may be born alive. So these are the two conditions which very clearly say if you endanger the health of the pregnant child or mother, or you endanger if the heartbeat of the baby to be born is there. So I think going by the law of the land, Supreme Court has taken the right stand, because this is not the first time. As I said, Bombay High Court has also gone ahead and refused to give permission. So it is not about autonomy, it's about your health, it's about your life. If the pregnant woman it endangers her life, I think permission should not be granted, and the courts have rightly today refused to terminate the pregnancy.
Abha Singh, thank you so much for bringing us context on that story. It's time for a short break. On the other side, in just a few minutes, we return with all of the country's top stories. This is the Breaking News Show on CNN News 18.